Hey guys, how's it going? And welcome into another dev blog for Anno 117, this time talking about attributes and building buffs. Now, before we get started, I have a really quick announcement for you guys. If you missed the post over on Discord or on the YouTube community page, I will be out of town for most of the month of May. I have to go out of town for some medical treatments, unfortunately. I'm hoping to be back in just a few weeks once I leave to go out of town. I'm trying to get at least a few videos pre-recorded and some stuff going, so I can at least have some stuff set up to release to you guys while I am not home. All right, so with that really quick announcement right there out of the way, and that you know what's going on with me, and if I don't respond to comments or anything like that, that's why I'm just not going to be around for a couple of weeks while I have to go deal with some stuff. All right, so let's talk about these attributes and building buffs. So we all know the basics of this system. This is a staple of the Anno games. Your population is always demanding something. You need food, clothes, public buildings, all those good things. And we supply those things because that is the core gameplay loop of Anno. We want to supply them with, all the resources they need and the consumer goods they need. And that way they give us taxes to offset maintenance costs. We want them to be happier, supplying them with goods that supply happiness because we don't want them rebelling and things like that. Those bonuses are referred to as attributes. Income, population, happiness, those are all attributes. Stuff that we already know from previous Anno games, returning in Anno 117 as expected. Now, the examples coming up next are kind of tying in with the optional needs system that Anno 117 has, where you can kind of pick and choose what you want to supply to your people based on resources you have available on your starter island, islands you may have already settled, and resources they have. Are you in Latium? Are you in Albion? Do you want to go to other regions and, set up cities and stuff there and trade between regions and supply more stuff? Again, it's all up to you as the player on how you want to do this. And we can pick and choose how we want to do it. At the basic level, providing your tier 1 residents with, let's say, fish, tunics, and a marketplace, it's going to give you a total of +2 population and +4 income for having all three of those right there supplied. But you could go a step further and you could also supply them with porridge, hats, and a tavern. And that's going to give you a total of now 5 population, 5 income, and +2 happiness. So we're going to get additional population, additional income, and happiness by supplying them with more goods. Now, you don't have to supply them with those goods if you don't want to. This kind of is like a melding of the base needs, the happiness needs, and the lifestyle needs from Anno 1800. And you as the player have to decide which attributes are going to be most important to fulfill and how much you want to spend time, resources, and everything else setting up more production chains and buildings for your population, or do you want to just hurry up and get through to the final population tier and then go from there? Completely up to you on how you want to do that. Now, in this image example right here, we have a choose how to feed them. We can either supply wine, which is going to give +3 happiness, +3 income, +1 happiness, and then +2 of a attribute we haven't been told about yet, and a -1. Now that is something very different. We have never, to my knowledge at least, I don't think I can recall any sort of consumer good that had a negative attribute on it, which I think is really, really cool. So if we supply our people with wine, we're going to get more money, more happiness, +2 of something, but something is going to have a negative impact on it. Maybe crime safety or something. People get drunk and they out partying, being crazy, ripping their togas off or something. Who knows? But there is going to be a negative attribute on that. So you're going to have to take that into consideration. Or we could go to Albion and we could bring maybe cheese back to Italy, to Latium, and supply them with cheese instead. And it's going to give us +2 population, +3 income, and +2 of, again, an attribute that we don't know yet. So which of those two is going to be the most important and the most impactful for your population? That's on you to decide based on your game. Provide one, both, up to you. Now, they do talk about a couple of other things right here. It's not just happiness, income, and population, though. We've also now included fire safety, health, and some other attributes that they haven't talked about yet because they are features that they haven't revealed to us yet. So it's really, really interesting. Fire safety and health. In the past, we had hospitals and fire stations, and that's, you plop one down, they have a radius around them and they take care of any fires or, sicknesses and illnesses that come up. But now we're actually going to have fire safety and health as actual attributes that houses and buildings can give to your city. It's going to be really interesting to see how that actually works. They're going to be providing us also with more visibility on those values. So there's going to be a list of these attributes at a dedicated bar at the top of the screen that shows you those exact points. The example right here is if you have a negative 100 fire safety points, you're going to be able to see that at the top of the screen. And so let's say you have a minus 100 fire safety points. I don't know, let's say we build I'm assuming there's going to be a fire station. We build a fire station. If it provides plus 50 fire safety points, then we're going to go down to negative 50 fire safety points because we have eaten into that negative with some positives. So there's going to be some number balancing that we get to do on how we want to manage all of these different attributes. All attribute values a residence provides are dependent on the needs they supplied with, like we said before. Higher level needs are also going to supply higher attribute values. So, at the highest tier of the game, whatever that's going to be, patricians or whatever they're going to be called, supplying them with, a food stuff is probably going to supply a lot more attribute points than providing the basic farmer tier or whatever with a food stuff. It's going to have a bigger impact the higher tier the house is. They also try to link the attributes of a need narratively to the object in question. So soap, for example, besides increasing income, it also increases the health attributes of the residences supplied. People with soap are going to be healthier, so makes sense. There are also two different layers for the attributes, island values and global values. Island-wide values are what you would expect. Fire safety, health, happiness, your workforce population on that island, whereas global values are your province-wide population, which unlocks new buildings and needs, and then of course income is a global value. Now there is a little bitty line right here that they really do just kind of skim over a little bit. While workforce is linked to your population, or rather the population attribute of a residence, it's calculated via a workforce factor that's also displayed in-game. Not every citizen is a worker. This is kind of big, actually. In Anno 1800, if you had 10 farmers, you had 10 workforce. In this, that's not going to be true. If we have 10 workers, we don't know how much workforce that's actually going to supply out of those 10. Is it 75%? So, maybe, I don't know what that is. Let me try and think of something simpler. Maybe 10 workers, I'm going to call them workers because I don't know what they're going to be called. Let's call them 10 workers. You might actually only get, 6 workforce out of 10 population, for example, maybe. It's interesting that there's not a direct one-to-one now. There's a workforce factor that is going to be handling all of that as well. So there's your population, and then there's your available workforce. And those two values are not going to be equal. I really want to see some more information on this because I think it's going to be a big change for a lot of people. There are going to be 8 attributes total, and we already know the first 5. We have income, population, happiness, fire safety, and health. And then there's going to be 3 more that they have not revealed yet. What do you think the 3 that they have not revealed yet are going to be? Let me know down below in the comments. Now, the next section here is talking about building buffs. Now, at the core of this system, it's nothing new, okay? Fire stations existed in Anno 1800. It increases the fire safety in its vicinity. Boom, done, easy enough. It's very, very similar, except in this time, it is based on the attribute number itself, which is something we didn't get to see in Anno 1800. We didn't get to see those actual numbers, and now we pretty much do, and we can see how that fire station is going to actually impact the overall fire safety of the entire island. Public service buildings also provide a buff to residences within its area of effect. Again, very similar to Anno 1800. you place down, you know, a tavern or something, and it has a radius around it, and the people within the radius got, you know, income and happiness from it. Very, very similar to how that works and everything else like that. There's just going to be additional attributes besides just happiness and income. Now, what's going to be completely new for Anno 117 is now production buildings also provide buffs and debuffs to buildings within the radius. The example they give here is the bakery. Within a certain radius around the bakery, it's going to provide a buff of +2 income, but a debuff of -2 fire safety to all buildings within the radius. This is going to leave us with a choice of where we want to place the bakery. Do we want to place the bakery near our houses to get additional income at the cost of having fire safety lowered? Or do we want to place it outside of our main city, kind of by itself somewhere, forego the income boost, but not have to worry about the huge fire safety negative? Of course, that negative fire safety can be offset with, you know, a fire station or something, but you're going to have to kind of consider all of this stuff now. This kind of changes how the puzzle of Anno is going to work. Normally, people would build just vast industrial wastelands, you know, with all of their industrial buildings stacked on top of each other, you know, off on a corner somewhere, stacked around a trade union or whatever. Now we actually have some incentive, it seems, to build our production buildings mixed in with our residential areas, or maybe having some overlapping layouts and everything to try to take the benefits from the production buildings, as long as they give a benefit that we want, and provide those to our residences as well. I think that is a really interesting system. I think it's going to be really, really fun to play around with this and to find the different types of, you know, layouts and how we want to incorporate all of this. And, you know, our cities aren't just going to be big blocks of 2x3 houses everywhere with all of the production shoved in a corner. You know, we may actually want to start building our cities to where our production buildings are incorporated into a city square in the middle. Maybe take out a couple of houses in the middle of your housing layout, plop down a factory in the middle to get some bonus. It's going to be really, really kind of fun to see how all of this is going to work together and what our city layouts may look like. I think they're going to be a lot different than what we have seen in the past with all these new attribute systems. It is worth noting that the buffs do not stack. A hat maker, for example, is going to give residences +1 income to any residences within the radius of the hat maker. However, multiple hat makers in the vicinity do not provide the buff multiple times. So while you might need 10 hat makers, you only need 1 within the radius of, you know, a housing block or something, and then you could put the others somewhere else and just have the 1 right there. The overall goal of the system was to provide more choices for the player on which needs we want to fulfill, greater transparency on the different island attributes, which is something we've needed for so long, and more ways to influence said attributes if you want to get the most out of your city and production chains. I think this is a really cool system, actually. I really like the idea of being able to pick and choose based on what I want to do with my city and what resources I have available, and also being able to incorporate production buildings into my city layouts to provide additional bonuses and attributes. Most of you know I love mixing production buildings into my cities and everything. I just think it looks more realistic. I think it looks fun, and I think it looks kind of nice. I like that I now have incentive to do that beyond pretty. Okay, I love that. I think you guys might like this too. What do you guys think? I want to hear your thoughts on this system right down here below in the comments on these new attribute system and how this is all going to play in together. That's it for me, guys. This was a little bit rambly. I am sorry. I'm not doing well right now, honestly, which is why I'm having to go out of town. So I'm struggling a little bit trying to get through these videos. So I do apologize. I've got several more to work on over the next couple of days before I go out of town. So again, bear with me through a couple of these videos. We will get through them together. And hopefully when I get back, I will be 110% and we can continue on and get ready as we get closer and closer to the launch of Anno 117 Pax Romana. Thanks for watching, guys. I hope to see you in the next one. Until then, take care.